Hey y'all, my name is Ann Wyatt. I started my career in workforce development with the state of Kentucky in 2010. That experience ignited a deep passion for manufacturing within me. I started this show hoping to raise more awareness around the bright outlook manufacturing careers have. Join me as I sit down with some of the manufacturing industry's most successful changemakers and learn how they're partnering people with technology. It's time to give people more meaningful work. This is Workforce 4.0. Of Workforce 4.0. This is your host, Ann Wyatt, and I am so excited to have Michael Haas on the show here today with us. And Michael is the Vice President of FerRobotics here in the US. And he's coming to the show today. We're going to talk all about automation implementation, whether you're a small company or a large company that's just getting started with automation. We're also going to talk about the history of automation, which I think is really cool. And we're also going to get into people and the future of work. So, Michael, that is quite an intro here for you today. But for those listening out there that maybe are not as familiar with you and what you all are doing at FerRobotics, do you want to give yourself a quick introduction?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Ain, for having me here today. It's a pleasure. It's always great to talk about automation. I'm a very strong believer that automation is the future. And yeah, we have to automate if we want to do manufacturing. Otherwise, we will have a hard time to survive in nowadays life. We all know the workforce issues everybody's facing. But not only this, it's also to protect our people and get them out of dirty, dangerous environments, right? Like the coaling industry had to change from manual labor to automated machines in order to be safer. And automation, I think, is a great thing to get us there. And that's already what FerRobotics tries to do is we try to automate a lot of these 3D jobs or 4D jobs, the dirty, dusty, meaningful jobs out there. We come from everywhere sensitive robotics is needed. Sensitive robotics means actually when the robot wants to touch a part and gets in touch with the part or with the surface. And out of that, very quickly developed that a big need in the industry was grinding, sanding, surface conditioning, finishing. Some call it material removal. I personally do hate the term material removal because in the end, it's always about a finishing of a surface. What you want to achieve is can be a weld grinding, can be paint sanding, can be detail repairs, as on top coat repairs, can be on turbine blades, can be on wooden desks and tables and wooden coffins or satellite parts. The variety where we are working is very large. The need there is significant. It's still one of the most labor intense jobs we have is right now, I think, manufacturing. And we always hold a part in our hands when we do something or we're getting in touch with. And that was a very long challenge unsolved with robotics, and FerRobotics has a great technology there, our active contact technology, which helps us to get in contact with the part, touching parts, maintaining a constant force in a dynamic phase, especially with high and fast processing speeds. Like the humans, you see them very often grinding very fast. But the need also in the automotive industry, where we have a strong roots to, is cycle times of 16 seconds a car, right? So you need to do everything in a very short time, but you have to do it precise and repeatable. And the same is in the aerospace industry, where process is very important. And aerospace is facing quite some challenges. You know, we hear it all the times in the news. This aircraft manufacturer has quality issues. This one, we just had a weekend where a European had some issues with software updates and other quality things, right?
Yeah,
And when we can
Airbus,
automate those
right?
things, yes.
Just had a bigger, yeah.
So it was Boeing before, now it's Airbus, and they all have the same issues. It's human labor, it's human factors, humans impacting the process, and automation can help there. And FerRobotics is doing that in the way of maintaining a constant force. And constant force means a constant process, means a repeatable process. And this is how we are closing the loop there for our customers to automate processes.
Yeah. I mean, I love everything that you just said, Michael. I definitely want to dive into a lot of what you just said, because that is, if anyone has been in a material removing facility, there's a lot of implications with your workforce there. But I wanted to kind of break the ice a little bit, Michael, because I feel like you are just such a nice got to hang out with. I know we've had several conversations before, but I got to know, Michael, if we were out somewhere and we were, we were like at a trade show or something, and like maybe you wanted to do karaoke because you kind of strike me as that type. Strike me as that type. What would be your go-to karaoke song?
So that's a very good question. I'm a good technician, but I'm a very bad singer, and I know that, so I usually try to avoid karaoke. But we have a song, or I have a song which I also associate with work a little bit, what we like to sing, or what I came up in a while ago. It's basically, Elton John, I'm Still Say.
Oh, I love that song.
And the funny part actually happened when I rephrased that to "I'm still sanding." So it actually my marketing department, my cool marketing department in Europe actually put that quote on a shirt of mine. So I have a shirt now with running around with "I'm still sanding" with the Elton John quote from that song.
Yes, we need all of these shirts. Can we get shirts that I love?
I
I think t-shirts like that are fantastic. I wear them all the time. I'm
We will see. We,
serious.
we will do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that so much. I feel like that would be such a hit, or like a sticker or something. I mean, that's brilliant.
Yeah. Sticker's a great idea. Great for the next trade show.
That's awesome, Michael. See, you are creative. You are technical and creative. So that's awesome. I love that. That's really cool. I'm still sanding. Is that like that?
Yeah. So after I'm more than 10 years now with FerRobotics, and I'm still sanding, so it's still one of our biggest applications I would say out there in surface finishing is a sanding and grinding. But I'm still grinding wouldn't rhyme, so we said I'm still sanding.
It's perfect. Do not change it. It is perfect. I love that. I love that so much. Awesome. Well, can we expect those stickers coming to a trade show in 2026? Because I'm taking some.
I will see so if we can get it to automate next year.
That would make my whole show right there. I'm serious. Awesome. Awesome. Well, I love that. But Michael, our conversation that we had previously, you were so informative on educating me, and I appreciate that dearly, on the history behind automation and how automation has changed in the industry. And I was hoping that you would share some of those insights with some of our listeners out there today that maybe are also curious. When you first started in the industry, how was, the landscape for automation? What did that look like? And how has that changed over the years?
That's a very good question. And my roots are going very far back in automation. Actually, I made in my high technical college, my specialized was automation there. And it was cool because like with 15, 16 years, we actually got an industrial robot to play with and PLCs and things like this.
Oh,
Um,
that's cool.
yes, I have seen automation since a very long time, and there has been a significant transformation in automation. I did for a very long time something else, from building power plants to doing plastic machinery, and being now back in automation since over 10 years. And I think the last 10 years were more interesting for the industry than the 20 years before, what we have seen changes. I think we see that a lot in all of the industries where software is involved and things like this, right? Like look at the internet and how that had been 10, 20 years before and nowadays. Yes, informative. This is, I think, a big part of FerRobotics as well. We try to help our customers because we do have a very new technology in that field. We have over 130 different patents in that technology. So it's very innovative, and we have to help our customers to identify the applications, work with them in the very beginning on. So we have seen a lot of this transformation. We hear a lot of this was not possible before, and now it's an easy peasy thing. The biggest transformation in the last couple of years, what I see is, since a couple of years, everything with the camera is called AI,
Mm.
but it's
Mm-hmm.
still very often rule based. So automation has mainly changed because it became a little bit more affordable for a lot of applications, right? Where cameras have been very expensive, some other equipment has been very expensive, became more accessible, that allowed more things to do. There are more softwares out there who make things easier than point-to-point program. My first teach panel was a line display with with numbers and letters on there. That was everything. And now you have a full graphic displays, right? You can add softwares to it. So we can automate more complex things. FerRobotics enables that as well. And it has changed in the matter that people are seeing this now more and more in their lives, where in the past it was a lot automotive industry and maybe their tier ones with automation. Now we have the collaborative robots, low payload robots, force minimum torque, minimum regulated robots, whatever you want to call them. They pop up in moms and pop shops. So in smaller shops, easier interfaces, more intuitive interfaces, which allows people who have never worked with a robot before to implement them in their daily life. I'm still always a great fan when I come to Universal Robot on their booth and they can teach you in 5 minutes that you can move a robot around, right? So
I did that, Michael. And
that
like
has
we
changed
were
quite a
all
lot.
impressed.
Yes, and that is quite impressive. That is quite enabling for the industry. And when you then can combine a tool like FerRobotics, which has a similar approach on plug and play, and again, I don't want to make it too much of a sales pitch, but I think this is something which has changed the world here pretty much is, and we had it on the last trade show, you unite a universal robot with an FerRobotics ACFK designed for that tool. You have a 10-kilogram robot, and in 5 minutes you can teach it. You learn how to teach it just to grind a weld. You make the pass and you add a few numbers, and it happens in the background. I like to compare that with our cell phones. We had the PDAs, and I'm old enough to had one, and we were there with your stylus, and I love them because I was a technician at that time, right? I was in school. They were awesome because I could do everything on there, but you could have never handed that over to my mom or to a 10, 15-year-old kid, right? And now with the cell phones, with the smartphones, you can give that to a 3-year-old and they find their YouTube video and they can book you a flight.
Oh, and they do. And they don't have any reservations about it.
It's their natural environment in the meantime. And that is great. And I think this is what has changed in automation. But one of the big things that has changed in automation is enabled people who have never thought to be able to use a robot. And that's a great thing because in the end of the day, robots never take jobs. Robots always create jobs. Robots always enable people, especially, and I really believe in this, the biggest portion, they protect people for environments that we don't want to be in, that we don't have to be in, or where we should not be in. And let a robot do the hard job and let us do the rest of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was going to be my quick follow-up actually was, the technology and automation has changed drastically in the past, few years, let alone, like a decade or two, right? But, how has that also affected the people at work and like how have the people changed? And, I think that everybody is really we talk a lot about the skills gap and it's still very much there. But I think that we have done a really good job. And the people in our industry are a lot higher skill than they were 10 years ago.
Absolute. And again, it's the affinity what we have towards technology. Again, I come from a higher technical college. I had my first computer, which would at 12 megahertz and 2 megabyte RAMs. And so, I was very early in that technology, but I've seen that on my parents and other people that they had an issue to adapt to that technology, right? When we had MS-DOS and you had to know everything what you typed in exactly to the letter and otherwise it did not work. Well, now, on a Windows Surface, you can sit almost anybody in front of it and within an hour, 2, 3, you can teach them certain things. So technology became much more approachable and easier to use. And this is still the biggest thing that I see in the industry is between good and bad adoption of robotics is the fear of robotics, right? If people go to there and they have a complicated robotic system in front of them, a difficult system to use, right? They are scared. They are like, if I click anything wrong, I do something bad. We had a good advertisement in the past where the mom calls the son and says like, hey, I think I deleted the internet, right? She actually did. She deleted the icon, right? But by not knowing it, it's a fear of damaging something, and that is robotics, right? It's unfortunately still not as standardized as a Windows system. It is still very customized, which is good and bad. But that scares people, right? New things scare people in the beginning when they don't know how to use it, unless they start to use it as a tool. The steam engine was the same thing. The first people were scared about a steam engine, and then the first ones blew up because they were not safe and things like this. Luckily, we don't have so many robot systems blowing up, but we see systems here, they are not well made, and then they don't perform, and people say, oh, this is a crappy system, I don't want to work with that, because I'm still the one who gets yelled at it afterwards when the part doesn't be in specification, and it's not me, right? So that's one of the things where we need to do more, I think, and enable people and enable systems to be simpler. And my benchmark stays the iPhone or the easy to use swiping world there. We try to do that as well with FerRobotics, right? The only thing you would have to tell the tool is the force, and then the rest happens within the closed loop, in a black box, if you almost want to say so. But the customer does not have to care. The operator does not have to care. But he can say, hey, if I grind a little bit more, if I want to grind more, I increase the force. So this is an interface where the people can work with, and they don't need to do a lot of math in the background. They don't have a complicated HMI system. You would not believe, and again, I can say that from my previous past, when I was very on the technical side as well, how I like to have every button to push there and every variable to change. But that's not what the operator wants, right? They want a system that works, right? We are users. We're more users of technology nowadays than understanding what's behind it. And systems need to become simpler and easier. We are the right way, right? We see that in all of the things, the smart TVs, the phones, everything nowadays, the cars, everything gets more connected and easier to use. That's a drive what we have to fulfill and try to do in our automation world with ourselves and delivering good quality. And then the people are like to use them as tools, as to use a hammer, as to use a power drill. Nobody would ever do a hole by hand anymore.
Yep. They wouldn't. No. And that's something that I don't think that like a lot of, employers, sometimes they don't understand, like the newer generations they're not going to do that. I mean, there's a few that will, but not by and large. And those are some really great challenges that you highlighted there, Michael, for us. But like when it comes to other challenges for companies implementing automation, like if they're a smaller company, I would imagine that they would have a lot different challenges when they're implementing automation than like a large Fortune 1000 company would have. What are some of those key differences and challenges?
Sure. I mean, there's quite a difference if you speak of a 10, 20, 100 people company or a $10,000, $20,000 company. But it's also on how are they prepared in robotics, right? You have very innovative companies who say like, hey, new technology, give it to us, right? We have a workforce that likes to take this on and does that. It's a workforce challenge. It's, when you come to an automotive plant, there's no question, there's no fear about robotics. They have the workforce in the background who understands what they're implementing. They also understand how to train the people afterwards. They know what to buy. They know what to specify. While when you come in a 50 people company, you probably don't have a new innovation officer in there, new technology onboarding process, all of this kind of thing. So it's kind of the CEO comes to a trade show, sees the great universal robot with the FerRobotics tool combined and says, I want that, right? And then he maybe even buys it, and then the people, here it is, right? So you need to prepare your workforce for that. You need to like the systems. This is one of the big things where we are working with our customers directly to make sure, hey, we show you how to use the system, right? What do you need to do with that, right? This is very important to don't forget your people in that system. It's the same thing when you 1990 just bought everybody a computer. Nobody would have used them because they wouldn't have known how. So you need to prepare them for the changes. You need to prepare them what that means. You need to handle the fears because, again, the myth is still out there that robotics will cost my job and I will lose my job because if I grind and not a robot grinds, I'm like, damn, what am I going to do in the future?
Yeah.
This fear is that you need to address that. And the more open you do that, the more successful you are. And again, the simpler the systems, the easier they are to implement. And obviously, it's also much more risk for a smaller company. $300,000, $500,000 investment to swallow than for an Boeing to buy something for 500,000. If that was a mistake, it was a mistake. It will not kill the company. If you're a 10 people company and you make a $500,000 mistake, it might be cost you the company. There are different things you have to consider by doing some of these things when you're smaller and larger. And the great thing with FerRobotics is we don't only work with integration companies or with distribution companies. We work a lot with our OEMs or customers directly. So from the 10 and 20 people, moms and pop shops, to the Fortune 500 companies, to the very large ones out there. Everyone has different needs, but we help to address all of this. Again, one of the biggest things is simplification of the process. Make it simple, easy, usable for the customer. And the customer is really the operator, not the CEO. Yeah, not the CEO, not the owner. The customer is the operator. They need to work with that cell afterwards.
So, Michael, you really got my wheels turning here. I'm thinking about all this and, kind of like what we were talking about just when we first started this episode, right? And we're talking about like the material removing business of deburring and grinding and finishing. Those jobs in a lot of cases, I don't know if anyone listening out there has been in facilities like this, but in a lot of cases in these jobs, you walk into the plant and it is very it is dirty. I'll say it. It's dirty. A lot of the operators are they're wearing respirators because they don't need to get that metal into their lungs, right? For companies out there that are listening, obviously your workman's comp claims, very high. Your turnover, very high. Unemployment, very high. All these things, right? That in HR, you're just like, those are very, very high things. So like when you're thinking about these and you're thinking about these jobs that, robots can obviously do better. I think we can both agree on that. How do we make sure that the people on the front line that are doing these jobs, like how do we create opportunities for them to advance their skill set? What do you think?
It's an education thing. So by education, I not mean necessarily the skills, but educate them about what a robot can do for you. Again, I'm going to repeat that. I hate the word material removal because it's about finishing. It's really getting a finished surface or finish a surface for the next step. And why I'm so particular about finishing, because finishing is so much harder than just removing something, right?
Right.
Because finishing is also very objective. What's good for A is not good for B. And that makes it so hard on the robots. And yes, robots can do better, but only when you do it right. Unfortunately, I see a lot of systems always out there who are not done right, where they have issues, where we just replace a tool with the right tool. And again, FerRobotics, we have only very obviously thing in common. So we have a stroke and other tools have a stroke, but the level of force control is something completely different. And that's really the big thing that enables our systems or let it look very easy. So that's a very important thing. So, and then it's about the workforce. Educate them on how they can help them. As you said, nobody likes to be in that environment. Yes, you maybe find the 60-year-old person who still says, I love grinding, I do that.
That's but I true. Think there's one or two. I mean, there's always that one, right?
But I think that's probably 1 or 10 in the whole United States. You won't find a lot of them anymore. And then it's also a cost issue, right? If you pay somebody $35 to be in an environment like this, to wear this bunny suits all the time, respirators, it's expensive. Workers' comp claim. We all want to get older in the future, right? We look at our health much more. The materials are getting worse, right? We have much more aluminum and carbon things. It's not nice on your skin. It's not nice to inhale. So nobody likes to be in that environment. So it's not so hard to tell them that they can have a good job here, maybe make the same amount and more money even when they run the robot and don't have to be in there. But you have to tell that to people. You have to educate on them, what's in them, what's in for them for that, right? It's not, we're not after your job. We need you anyway. And while the robots, I like that always when we see them in movies, right? They move around, they look very intelligent, but in the end of the day,
They're
the
just
robot
machines.
system it's a very stupid system in the end of the day. We try now to put more AI or rule based things in the background, but nevertheless, the operator has usually the most experience about the process, right? They have a good feeling about what's good or what not. So you need those people, right? You need the
Right.
skilled people. Then maybe it's good that you only do 90% of your service and the last percent stays with the operator, but it's the harder to access part. It's not the boring flat surfaces or curved surfaces, large surfaces where you have ergonomical things. And when you tell them, say like, hey, use this for that, but this is for you, and you are in charge, you are signing off on the process. It's great for you because you get the quality you want, you get the quality control you want, you have the consistency you want from the robot process, and you took the person out of the environment. He doesn't want to be in there anyway, right? And it's getting harder and harder. You mentioned HR hiring and losing people. McDonald's pays $25-$30 an hour on the West Coast. Here in Phoenix, they are paying $22 an hour, and then you want to find somebody being in a dirty environment for $30 or $35. That's a challenge. Not only that it's a challenge on this side, but as you said, workers' comp costs,
Yeah.
protective gear costs,
Yeah.
and we should not do it. That's the most important
Insurance.
thing. Yeah, but we should not do that. We should not expose people to dangerous things if there's a better option. And I think that's an important thing. If you tell the people that it's about your protection, we're not after your job, we're for your protection, they are happy to learn the skills. They are happy to work with a robot. I have not seen a good made system where the people had issues in using it afterwards.
Have you ever had a customer that implemented FerRobotics on their floor and then they were able to retrain their workforce and like upskill them to where they're operating those
Every
robots?
time, every time.
Every time.
Every time. So it's usually the operators who did the parts before who are running the machines afterwards. That's what you try. It's not so much in the automotive industry because they have a whole different dynamics in things like
Yeah.
this. But you
Yeah.
usually have the people who have done that before always very close to. It's with one aerospace OEM, we actually have a cell where they really just stand in front of the robot and watch the robot doing the work, and then do the inspection. That's a union thing, though. That's not the goal that you watch the
Right.
robot doing it. But in the end, it's often so, and this is the advantage, or this is the chance for the company there, that one operator watches two or three robots afterwards. So you can grow your business without needing more people you can't find anyway. So you
Mm-hmm.
keep the people on there because you give them better jobs. You give them jobs that are more fun. You're not coming home and have ankles they cannot move and fingers they are stiff or have lung diseases or whatsoever from the
Yeah.
dust, right? So we can come home healthy. We still do what we know. We don't have to learn something completely different. Now, again, instead of a manual drill, we are using a power tool to drill the hole. It's much more fun and you're getting more done, but that does not put you out of a job.
Do you think that this is, and sorry for like so many questions. I'm really enjoying this conversation because
I
I
can
just
go
really
on
think
for hours.
I just really enjoy your perspective on it because it is just so relatable to me. I've seen this process a million times, and it is it is the perfect example of taking away a dull, dirty, dangerous job. But, do you think that that's really kind of realigning and restructuring the way that companies view value? Because it is about the ownership. It's about the ownership of the process when you are transitioned from actually the finishing, doing the finishing work to overseeing the work being done. Then you almost become like a manager in a way, right? Because you've taken that next step of where you have to have that skill set of critical decision making, critical thinking skills, problem solving, and then also like that ownership aspect of the process. And do you think that companies are kind of grabbing onto that and shifting the way that they think about value in their frontline workforce?
Absolute. I mean, this is, if you want to call it manager or operator, right? It's the same thing. If you run a CNC machine, you're managing this machine. You are in charge of it. You're in charge of the process. You need to know that machine. You need to know where the issues are, right? And there will be always better operators and worse operators, as there are better manager or worse managers. You always need to know the tools, the things you're working with. Absolute. I mean, that will be important for the companies to have good people on there and to still understand that. The big difference between like a CNC and the finishing robotic cell is still, though, in a CNC, it's very straightforward. There's not so much process per se in behind, because you really take material off, right? You mill something off, you drill a hole, whatsoever. By finishing, is much harder because it's so objective as well, right? What's good for one is not good for the other. It can change, and it's hard to measure, right? When I do a CNC process, I always can measure. It's usually a dimensional thing, and I measure the dimension afterwards. And if the dimension is good, the part is good.
Right.
With a finish, it's always, you look at it on one perspective, it looks good, and you look at it from that side, it doesn't. So you need to have this skill set of the people to say, yes, this looks good, but this, and if I move it from this motion to this motion, or if I increase my speed, one of the big things what we always see is a lot of the processes are done too slow, and that's why you're not getting the finish you want. Because that's either it's the fear of the operator that he doesn't want to go faster, or it's just that they are used to outdated tools that cannot go faster, or they couldn't go faster because then the tool jumps and leaves the part and doesn't deliver anything. Well, we have processes where we go with 1800, 1900 millimeter robot speed per second on parts and finish that, right? So we enable that. We take this complexity completely out of it. So for the operators, it's like, okay, let's sand a little faster. Let's grind a little more faster. Let's increase the force. Keep it very simple. But you need that input, and we will always see that a good operator, a good machine operator is always better than a worse one, right? And then you see that on the parts you're coming out, you see that on the problems they're having, you see that on the throughput. And so we're going to see on robotic cells. And absolutely, I mean, having the right workforce and having a good workforce is the biggest capital of any company. It's the people. It's the people who grow a company, not the machines.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. That's you know what? That is a really high note for us to end on, Michael. I love that so much. For those that are listening out there today that maybe they want to learn more about you or FerRobotics and the work that you're doing, what is a good point of contact?
A good point of contact is for me always LinkedIn. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn or via email or phone. Both is available on the FerRobotics homepage, or as I said, on my LinkedIn, you find them as well. I think that's the best way to reach out to me. Or they can ask you, Ann, and you have my contact information, and because they are staying in touch with you. Or FerRobotics will be an Automate next year. Again, I think this year we are in Chicago, so I will be there the whole time. Come by, say hello, see the tools, feel the tools. Because sensitivity, you actually have to feel. It's always nice to talk about it, but you can only feel it. So come by, touch it. We always have live things there to touch and play with. And that's always the best experience you can have.
Well, I will also be at Automate, Michael. So, and I'm sure a lot of our audience will be as well. So we will see you all there. But Michael, this has been such an awesome conversation. I really appreciate your time today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me again. It was fun. People who know me like that I like to talk about automation, and I have seen a lot of different companies style because we work with, as I said, very small companies and large companies. I've been in a few hundred plants in the meantime for all different processes. Be assured you are not the only one facing the challenges. Reach out to the experts. Ask if you want to do something in automation. Mistakes can be very expensive, but if you do it right, it will be the best investment you're doing in your company. When you want to manufacture and when you want to stay in a manufacturing business, there's no way around automation in the future.
Love that. Love that, Michael. And for everyone listening today, thank you all so much. Connect with Michael when you get a chance, or definitely stop by his booth at Automate. We will see you next week on another episode of Workforce 4.0.
Perfect. Thank you. Have a good day.